Okay, we're good? We're good now? Okay. Introducing our speaker, Jori Sakaguchi. She joined the ZLMC in 2013 because of her mother and the relationship with her mother. She is one of our certified ZLMC mindful and meditation teachers. She is also a Gestalt professional certified coach, a positive intelligence coach. She is the founder and owner of Interconnected LLC, which offers business transformation and organizational effectiveness consulting and coaching. And she's done this for over 25 years. And I always appreciate Jori's very calm and deep insight when I talk to her about things. Her talk today is Stunning Beauty, Mother's True Love, Celebrate Mother's Day.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you so much, Melanie. I feel the same about you. I always like when you're in the Zendo, I want to sit next to you because you radiate just this calm and loving energy. So thank you. Well, happy Mother's Day, everyone. And actually today is also May 10th, which is Nyorei no hi. So this is the Japanese characters, and then how you read them, Nyorei no hi, which means Stunning Beauty Day. And so May 10th sometimes coincides with Mother's Day, but in this tradition, we celebrate by eating California roll that we hand make. We make these pot stickers that we also hand make. I'm so thankful to my husband for helping me yesterday and this morning. We were very busy getting ready for kinship. So for those of you in the room, you'll get to enjoy the love that comes through our hands from our ancestors to all of you. Other things we do is really to appreciate life as it is and knowing that each moment could be our last. We also listen to Doris Day music and do sing-alongs, like especially Que Sera Sera, whatever will be, will be. It's a good life lesson right there. I might do a talk on that later. And we also typically have popcorn and watch movies. So really you're wondering, where is this tradition from? It sounds like a very traditional Japanese Nyorei no hi. I actually started this 10 years ago after my mother passed away. And her posthumous Buddhist name is Nyorei, which means stunning beauty. And every 6 years or so, her birthday also falls on Mother's Day, which she didn't tell us till she was much, much older. And she said, I don't want to celebrate my birthday and Mother's Day together. And I was like, thank you for saying something, because we would combine them all the time. So after she said that, we started celebrating her birthday and then Mother's Day, but not, even if it was the same day, they would be separate celebrations. So when you really think about tradition and what tradition is, it's those things that we learn from our heritage that are carried down, and it's really what we choose to continue. So we can all create our own traditions. I'm sure many of you have created traditions in your lives, and then things can be very ancient, going back thousands of years, like our Zen Buddhist services. So really, we're just a makeup of many, many traditions and culture and history from our lineages. So a little bit about Mother's Day. Who knows the history of Mother's Day? Can we hear him in the room? Oh, go ahead and start speaking. I want to see if somebody online can hear you.
Well, thanks to Heather Cox Richardson, I just learned this morning.
Okay.
So everybody thought that it had to do with lovely things for mothers, but actually it was an effort after the Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War that all these women in the United States and I guess internationally too, gathered up and said, enough of this horror that men are causing, we're going to stand up and change things. So that's really how Mother's Day, and so it isn't mother with an apostrophe S, it's mother, M-O-R-T-H-E-R-S apostrophe, all mothers. That's what Heather Cox Richardson said this morning.
Thank you for sharing, because I didn't know either until I did a little bit of research online. And what I discovered is that Anne Reeves lost her mother, Anna Jarvis Reeves, who was a Civil War nurse. And she cared for wounded soldiers, and she became an active pacifist. And she also worked toward public health. So she was a political and a social activist. And she always wanted something like a Mother's Day. And after she passed, her daughter, Anne Reeves, decided to advocate for having a national holiday. So she started advocating. The first time she celebrated in her local church was on May 10th, 1908. But then in 1914, it became a national holiday. So Woodrow Wilson signed that. And so now it's the second Sunday of every month. So when we think about the origin, it was the political and social activism. And Anne Jarvis herself was very disillusioned by what it has become, where the flower companies and the card companies have kind of commercialized it. And my daughter Ellie works at a Michelin star restaurant in DC, and it's the busiest day of the year, especially brunch. And of course, everybody wants it to be special for their mothers, which is understandable, but it's everybody's Mother's Day. And so it's kind of hard to accommodate all the special requests, but they do the best they can. But yes, I think it's really important to honor mothers, honor things that are important to mothers. And so who here is a mother? If you could raise your hand, and online as well. Okay, great. And so what are the characteristics of a mother? We're going to write this down on the flip chart here. What are some characteristics that describe a mother?
Selflessness.
Selflessness, thank you.
Nurturing.
Oh, selfless. 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 Okay, selflessness, nurturing. What else? What else comes to mind when you hear the word mother?
Strong.
Strong. Thank you.
And brave. Courageous.
Brave.
Stressed.
Yes. What might have caused that stress?
Say that again.
What would cause the stress?
Children.
So what about children?
Seriously, I'm looking back at my mom. She raised kids. She had to be a wife, but she also worked.
Yeah.
Did more work by far than anybody else in the family.
Yeah.
So she was stressed.
Stress makes sense. It sounds busy too, right?
Busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think creative when I think of mother, just like creative in the sense that they created life, but also they create, like kind of reframing what you're saying, like they created a lot of the income, they created a lot of the, like the housework, they created a lot of activities for kids and opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Manager.
Manager, yeah.
Manager. Leader.
Yeah, when you think of other ways that the word mother is used, like mother superior, they're the authority, they're the ones in charge, right? Or what about Mother Earth?
Artist.
Artist. Mm-hmm. Great. And this maybe sounds similar, but what actions or behaviors are common among mothers? What comes to mind for all of you?
Flexibility.
Fun.
My mother's high school motto in her yearbook was, "Responsibility is the ability to respond."
Oh.
She has lived it up. It makes me think of June May's talk about in her, when she shared about her practice, about that skillful, like how do you act, right? Be really thoughtful in how you react. Yeah. Anything else? Any actions?
Advocate.
Advocate. Okay.
Steady practice. I mean, you gotta get up every morning and make that breakfast and get the kids off to school and,
Steady practice. Great, great.
Organized.
Organized. You have to be when you're so busy, right?
yeah.
Dr. Nurse.
Definitely, Dr. Nurse. When I'm sick, I still want my mom.
Protective.
Protective, thank you.
Nutritionist.
Oh, we can go through, sports coach,
Okay.
Listen.
Listen.
psychologist.
Or not.
Wonderful. All right, well, this is a really great list, and I think that mothers, when you think about the characteristics and the actions and behaviors, it's really not just, the few people that raise their hand in the room and online. These characteristics and actions and behaviors really describe everybody when you think about it. And when I look back at, even with my mom, when she was 14, she was taking care of her mother who had gastric cancer, terminal gastric cancer, and she missed a month of school to care for her mom every day in the hospital. And this is post-war Japan, where it was not the best environment, very crowded. Doctors and nurses were not very available, so she really cared. And like when you think about nurturing, brave, selflessness, those are characteristics that I would describe my mom having toward her mother, right? And similarly, when my mom had 2 major back surgeries, and ultimately her cancer had come back, it was terminal, and my sisters and I cared for her with a lot of selflessness. We were definitely very busy. We had to get creative, but we supported one another and we supported her. And I actually have a picture of my mom. It's hard to see online, but yeah, my oldest sister Risa does tours, and she sent my mom on this motor car. What is it? The sidecar tour. And she said she was terrified because she, Paris busy streets. And she was like low to the ground, and but she was a trooper, and they took this great picture of her in front of the Eiffel Tower, which I will put up over here. But yeah, so my sisters and I really worked together to care for her in her last few years of life. And my sisters are my mothers as well. They were so supportive and caring, and was willing to do anything, despite all of the things that they had on their plates as well. So I feel very mothered by my sisters, friends, and one situation in particular is when my husband had a death in his family, and we decided it made the most sense for him to go by himself back to California because the kids were young. And I dropped him off at the airport, and I was just crying. I was so sad. And one of my dear friends invited us to their extended family's lake house. And we just spent time in nature. They cooked for us. We played games, and it was one of the times that I just really remember feeling really cared for, nurtured, selfless. Definitely nutritionist, doctor, nurse, all of those things. So really our friends, our loved ones. It's not just our mothers, right? The traditional definition of mother, but we're acting as mother, and we're receiving from other mothers in so many different ways in our lives. So I wanted to share a couple more memories, and then I would love to open it up because I want to hear about your mothers or times when you felt cared for and nurtured. So when I was little, my mom would peel these muscat grapes, like the really big ones that have this really bitter, thick skin and big seeds in the middle, but the flesh is very sweet. So she would peel these grapes. And she'd open it up and she'd take the seeds out. And after she had done several, she'd call me over, and I'd just run in and I'd just like start shoving in my mouth. And then she'd be just like, she'd try to peel faster. And I love this memory because like at the time I didn't realize how much work that was for her. I'm sure I did not appreciate it or say thank you. But those moments of just being cared for and nurtured and doing something for someone else just really has stuck with me. So I would love to hear from some of you. I don't have time for everybody, but I would love to hear a story when you felt really cared for. Melanie grabbed the tissue box.
It was actually really recent. It wasn't just my mom, but it was kind of my whole family, which is kind of getting at what you're speaking to. But I was in rehab over Christmas, and my entire family drove up from St. Louis to come and spend time with me. And it was really lonely in there. But like I was still like frustrated with them for whatever reason. I had resentments, and I was still trying to process all this stuff. But we were playing, I don't remember whatever that game is where you like have a letter where you roll the dice and then you write down different words. I can't remember the name of it. Categories. Yes, thank you. Yes, we were playing categories, and I had a moment where I was just like, felt like how we were when we were in childhood in our best moments, as a family, as a whole. Even though I was resentful towards them at first, like it blossomed into us just being in the moment. Even though we're in this like white room, like it's cold and it's like Christmas, but it's like it was just a moment of connection, and I just felt so cared for by my mom and my sister and my dad. And that was one moment that like really shined a light in such a dark time, and I felt really cared for.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's really beautiful. And really only in the present moment can we feel joy.
I'll share.
I feel very blessed. I feel cared for right now, actually. But the story I'll share is I was about 9 or 10, and my mom was going through a horrible divorce. And my father was, let's just say he was kind of a sociopath. But anyway, she put my brother and me on the train by ourselves to go down to Texas, where my grandparents lived. And that journey, the porters took care of us. So that was great. But then my grandmother and grandfather, who were very salt of the earth, she was a nurse's aide, and he took his pickup truck out in the oil fields to work on the little derricks that they had at that time and took us out there. They cared for us in such lovely ways. They didn't say, "Oh, we're so glad you're here," But he took us out to the oil fields and told us where to watch out for the rattlesnakes. And she bought a needlework kit and taught me how to do needlepoint, and later taught me how to crochet. She taught me a lot, and it was the first time I'd ever really lived in a really orderly, calm house, and I never forgot that. And I grew up to try to, and my mom that divorce wasn't really her fault, and her house became very orderly and calm later when it was done, but at that period it was an important thing.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And grandmothers and grandchildren have such a special bond. It's really incredible.
I'm glad you brought up grandparents. I have 3 women in my family that I want to recognize. My mom, of course. Her father, my grandfather, taught me how to fish. And one day I came back I lived on an island, and so I could fish by myself in the bay. And I came back and I had this probably no bigger than 6 inches, right, little fish. Right. But my mom said to me, did Papa show you how to clean it? And I said, yes. So she said, if you clean it, I'll teach you how to cook it. So this is a great memory. And it tasted like the best thing ever. So that's one story. My grandmother, who was my father's mother, wasn't so much a real loving woman, but she said something to me that lasted. She said to me, she spoke always with a New York City accent, Mark, get an education is something no one can ever take from you. Really meant a lot to me. And the third is my great aunt, who was my mother's aunt, who was like a loving grandmother to me. I visited them regularly in New York City. And one day she said, and I grew up Jewish, and she said to me, I'm going to make you bacon and eggs for breakfast. And I said, I've never had bacon. I can't have bacon. She said, yes, you can. She said, I'm making you bacon now. And I fell in love with bacon. These are the positive sides of these women, Break the rules.
I love it. Anyone online? Or after Christian, if anyone online would like to speak.
So I was raised by a single mom, and my parents separated when I was about 3 or 4 years old, and we were not living in Chicago, and my mom was offered a job to move to Chicago. And I remember I was probably around 4 or 5 years old, and we were walking down the street, and she asked me if I thought it would be a good idea to move to Chicago. And I was a little kid, I didn't know any better. But I think the fact that she respected me enough to even ask me what my opinion was meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And I've never forgotten that moment. Just this adult asking a little kid their opinion on such a big, life change. So I try to carry forward that in my life, ask people that maybe are younger than me or whatever, what they think, because I think part of being a loving caregiver is taking other people's, feelings or ideas into account. So, and then my mom, she had me when she was about maybe 21 or 22 years old. So she was quite young, and growing up, she always felt like a big sister, because she was also the youngest in the family. She's the youngest of 9. So she was always treated like, she was just the baby in the family. So she was very much of a troublemaker, and you know, she was just really, really fun to be with. And she would always protect me if I was misbehaving. She would always like stand up for me and always, you know, not let anyone raise her voice at me. So I thought that was a really cool thing of her to do. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's great. Anyone online? Oh, Roshichu.
I have a memory of my mom, a Minnie. I was at my high school graduation, and I was ready to leave Hawaii Island to see more than, you know, a rural island. And I had at that time 4 brothers and sisters, and I was the oldest, so, you know, I got to babysit a lot. So anyway, I was ready to go. And at the graduation, I noticed when it was all over that my mother was crying. And I thought that was strange, because this was like the happiest day of my life, in a way it was. And, but she was crying. And now I understand, because whenever there's ceremonies, I cry. And so I think it's that wonderful sense of deep happiness, and tears come with that.
Thank you, Roshichu. Anyone else have a story to share about being nurtured and cared for? So, I think as a mother, I have 2 children, and they're not here. One's in DC, one's in Urbana-Champaign. And when I had my first child, there's this, I don't know if they found another way to do this, but they have to like prick the bottom of the baby's foot for, do you know what kind of test that is, Mel?
Blood test, yeah, it's
Some kind of blood test that they have to do the day the baby's born. And I just had this overpowering urge to kill the nurse. I was like really kind of scared and surprised, but it was such a strong emotion to protect the baby. And I will say that it's not just my children that I sometimes have that feeling. I feel protective toward my sisters, my niece, my nieces, also some friends. But I think that there's something about just caring for, nurturing, and protecting. Did we have protecting up here? Yeah, so that's definitely something that it feels very strong, and I think as mothers or people who offer care to others, we attempt to do this in a way that is open, compassionate, and without judgment. And we don't always succeed because we're human, and our intent doesn't always match our impact. But I think to reflect on that, and knowing even experiences in your lives when you might have had challenging situations with someone who was caring for you, to really see it from their point of view, and to just know that they have positive intent and were doing the best they could. And I think that's, we could be holding on to some anger and resentment for past things that happened a long time ago. But really that's not helping anyone or anything. And that's something that, that I continue to work with. And So I'm wondering, has anyone else had that strong urge, like protective urge, come out? Can share more stories.
I'm having that protective urge towards my mother currently, or for my mother. She's unfortunately got embroiled in a dispute with a estranged family member. Anyways, long story short, I just want to swoop her up and say, stay home, I'll go represent you, I'll be moral support for you, I'll, don't let this bother you on your beautiful Mother's Day. I'm feeling that protective urge right now. Yeah.
She's very fortunate to have you.
I have one. I was vacationing in lovely Indiana, at Indiana Beach, and I had just had my fifth child, and we were in the pool, and so I had a 1-month-old I was holding, and all my other kids kind of jumped in the pool, and I thought, oh no, I got to get in the pool with all of them because not all of them know how to swim. And this woman came over to me and she said, oh, miss, I see all your children jumped in the pool. Can I hold your baby for you? And she was really offering a very kind thing, but I was like, no. No, I don't know you, and this is my baby. And it is, and my husband used to call it the mama bear protective, because it gets very, very strong, and you just, nobody messes with your kids. Yeah,
for sure. Anyone else?
I had a conversation with Pat this morning, of course, about being a mother. And I said to her, I'm sorry that we didn't have a genetic child of our own. And she said, are you kidding me? She said, Josh, she said, if we had that, we'd never have Josh. And that was both so deeply loving and protective simultaneously. And of course, oh my gosh, this boy, I love him I don't think of him as adopted at all. And she just brought me right up with her sternness and love.
That sounds like quite an awakening moment.
Well, if you know Pat, very much Pat too.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So then, when we feel so protective of our children and then they leave, or anyone that you care for and nurture. So my daughter studied in Japan for 2 years, which was a wonderful opportunity. But this was just at the end, toward the end of the major pandemic, and Japan was still closed. So we didn't even know if she'd be able to go to Japan until, a couple weeks before. But Japan was still closed to everybody else, just students, and if you were a Japanese resident, had a passport. And so, we get her ready, and she asked me, okay, Mom, please don't cry at the airport. Please don't cry. And I was like, okay, I'll do my best. I can't promise, but I'll do my best not to cry. And go to the airport, check her bags, goes down the line, waves at us, turns the corner, burst out loud crying. And I've never cried so unconsolably. It was like, I don't know when I'm going to see her again. Is she going to be okay? She's going to be on the other side of the world. And so Tom is holding me, and I'm sobbing so loud. It seemed like it was something out of a movie. People are looking, what is going on? And he's just holding me. And I tell the story for 2 reasons. One, that when you have such a strong protective instinct and you're letting your child go halfway around the world, it's a very difficult thing. And I felt so cared for when Tom was holding me. I felt very safe. and accepted. So, and she was also taking care of me by texting me at every step of the way. Yeah, here's I am, and now I'm transferring to the train, and now I'm on the new, you know, so she just was so good about communicating, and like I did not do that for my parents. I just went to college, and I would like call them when I needed money, but that was about it. And so I didn't deserve it, but I really appreciated her constant like texting and messaging, and my son is not as good about it, but she did through, and she still does, and it just gives me, like, that's how she's caring for and nurturing me. I don't think it's something that she needs for herself, but it feels very selfless, and she's doing it, putting me first, and wanting me to have a peace of mind. So yeah, so like my daughter is being a nurturing mother, my husband, and yeah, it's just this beautiful, multi-layered, multi-relationship relationship with this idea of mother. So, is there any other stories? Has any other stories come up for all of you? I kind of want Tom to tell a story, but no. He's even more introverted than I am, which is saying a lot. It took a lot for me to actually agree to do a talk, but I did pick Mother's Day so I could make snacks. That's really how my mom showed love, and that's the tradition that's coming through, that she taught me, that I'm made the, you know, it's a very mindful practice too. And I did get stressed, and my husband was so great about, you know, I was like trying to do it faster, and then he was helping in any way he could. And then I would be like, okay, I'm supposed to be making this mindfully and with love. So then I would like pause and do that. So it might taste a little bit like stress, but also mostly love. So any other stories you'd like to share about being cared for? Or I'd love to hear stories about you caring for others as well.
I had a story from yesterday, and it's maybe because it made me think about, as a mother, like nurturing, but also for a mother, like to be noticed as a mother, right? And by the strangers. So I think it was yesterday. I was with my son, and we're walking, and we're moving from like one appointment to another. So I was very in my focused state of what we got to do, and kind of tracking the surroundings for him, because he tends to be very hyperactive and bump into people. And then I see this lady with the suitcase, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, oh, what is she doing here with the suit? Like in my mind, like thinking, what is she doing with the suitcase? Oh, her suitcase is pretty big. And I'm thinking about all of that as we're coming to the crossing. And then she turns around, smiles at me, and says, Happy Mother's Day. And I'm like, that is just that moment. Like I stopped, and I'm like, wow, like I could have done the same. Like instead of analyzing so much, she kind of took me out of the analyzing. Like, oh, she's noticing, you know, that I'm a mother, and she was kind enough to just stop and you know, smile, and just one phrase, it just changed the further part of the journey. And even told my son, like, you see, like this is so important that we notice each other, and we're not just stuck in our heads like your mom was. And it's like, oh yeah. So that was like a little beautiful moment.
I love that. Yeah, I think the interaction with strangers, because really we are all interconnected, and also, yeah, just the appreciation. Yeah, speaking of appreciation, I imagine mothers often feel, you know, as they're feeling stressed or maybe not appreciated. For Mother's Day to be once a year, I kind of think Mother's Day should be not like as a holiday, but like appreciating and recognizing and like letting people know how they've touched you and how important it was to, you know, the moments that you felt really cared for and nurtured, to be sharing that with others on a daily basis, right? Because we're all caring for others and being cared for many, many times a day. And so really to appreciate the moments when people recognize, appreciate, is really like the world that I want to live in. So, well, with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Mother's Day. And I would like to ask, with our expanded definition of mother, who here is a mother? Everybody's hands should go up because I know you got it. You're all caring and nurturing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jori.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.